Good evening. It's about 7:30. We're going to start a meeting. We'll start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance, flag, United States of America, and to the republic with liberty and justice.
Trustee Fritchie.
Present.
Trustee White. Trustee Casada.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Lopez.
Present.
And Mayor Levin.
Here. Okay, we're ready to start.
We have
Big evening tonight.
We have a public hearing in the matter of overgrowth assessment at 25 Ann Street. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on 25 Ann Street overgrowth? Is there anyone in our virtual world that would like to? Okay. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Any comments?
Um,
Yeah,
Something real quick.
comment away.
So, and besides that, Ann Street, I know there's several other locations that we have through like code enforcement does their patrol. One of the things that I have always mentioned before is Hunter Street. Guys can have.
We have one coming up next month.
Okay, but that's one of the properties is a common repeater on some of the stuff where I have mentioned is either snow, overgrown, is barely you can even see the sidewalk and.
Well,
if you guys-
we do have one for an unnumbered Hunter Street lot. I believe it's either November 20th or it's no, it is November 20th.
Okay.
So that's definitely on the next calendar.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Great. My only comment is, can you remind the public why we even have public on this?
We do because we give notice to the property owner where they have not taken care of their own overgrowth. The village does the work. We send out a bill to them with a notice that if they do not pay the bill, there will be a hearing scheduled, and that's what tonight is. So they're given prior notice both to get the work done, and if they don't get the work done, that they have to pay a particular bill.
Okay, so this is the opportunity for the owner of that property to come in front of this board with any commentary they have. That's how we're doing it this way.
That's correct. That's what the law is. I will say that in more than 75% of the cases, we receive payment before the hearing actually takes place.
But that's not the case with this.
That is correct.
Okay, great. Any other comments, questions? Okay,
All in favor?
aye.
Mayor and trustees announcements.
Okay, I'm just going to start unusually tonight, only because yes, there was a big national and local elections. Personally want to thank the community in Ossining for showing their trust in me to have this office for another 2 years, so 25, 26. And of course, also for Dana White, congratulations on your reelection. Happy to have you on the board, and a new member that will start in January, Pat Yost, as well, will be joining this board. The rest of the election results are in the mayor message and all over the news. Congratulations to all those who represent us, and I hope they will represent us well for the next few years, depending on their term in office. And I think I was speaking to Sue before, our clerk, who's involved in dealing with the elections, that Ossining actually did show up for this election. The numbers were good as far as people going out there and voting. And that, I think, is the most important thing. There were also two propositions. One passed and one did not pass. On the back, Prop 1 passed and Prop 2 didn't. I think, at least the last time I looked. That's the way I saw it.
Prop 2 is a Westchester County one.
Westchester County, Prop 1, yeah. So just as an update, congratulations to everybody that ran and those that won, and I'm sure those that didn't will run again for something somewhere. So that's just my brief piece on the election. Bob, anybody on this side on this side, do we have any announcements? Your chair? Yeah, well, I went flying in my chair. Mine's too high, yours is too low. It's all good.
You see the very top of your head.
No, I have no. All right, I do want to remind folks that Election Day, the village offices were closed. Veterans Day, the next upcoming event, the village offices and town and government offices will also be closed. So just a reminder, because with the election, I think a lot of things took second seat. I also put in the mayor's message, I don't know if it's worth repeating, our veterans do an amazing event on Veterans Day. It'll be at Nelson Park. Every year we do, well, they do. A very nice ceremony for veterans. I think it starts at the park at 11 o'clock. Please join us. Many of our folks in the village and really from around the village do join and honor the many veterans in our community who have fought for the freedoms that we all enjoy. That's what I have to say for now, and I think we can move forward with the meeting.
Okay, administrative reports. Village Manager Karen Dottori.
Good evening, everyone. It is my great pleasure tonight to present the tentative budget, the manager's proposed budget for 2025. Now, the fifth budget that I've been
Wow.
on as
Wow.
village manager with our dedicated team here. It was had a lot of really good discussions internally in anticipation of meeting with the board subsequent to this presentation. Go over line by line every item that's covered in the village budget. So the process for those at home, we start the budget process really in August. We go meet with the department heads. Departments figure out, give us recommendations. We meet with them. This process goes on through October. Dale and Elizabeth Nakari do a tremendous amount of work in the finance department organizing this. It's not an easy task. This is a very complex and granular budget. But we do go through this in anticipation of presenting it to the mayor and the board of trustees, and the public, which I'm doing tonight. And have for Mayor Rika Levin, Deputy Mayor Omar Lopez, Trustee Robert Fritchie, Trustee Manuel Casada, and Trustee Dane Nguyen. Thank you all. Slide, please. So the village board has a big responsibility. It's oversight for all of the operations of the village. That includes everything that happens under the village manager, which is sanitation to water, finance, personnel, youth bureau, parks and rec, you name it, as well as the fire department, our all volunteer fire department, our corporation council, and our police department and police chief report to the board as well. In addition, we have 12 volunteer boards and committees that also work under the village organizational plan here.
So this presentation is not in this beautiful Halloween color 3-ring binder, right? That's a separate document, or is
That's a
one of
separate
the
document,
chapters?
but
Okay.
in that document, you get every detail.
No, I got it,
behind
but you didn't
every
include it
line.
in here, so
This
we're just seeing
Yeah,
this.
this is
Okay.
really a top line
fine.
presentation. So, next page. Okay, great. So, how your property taxes are used and what the distribution is. So, the lion's share of your property tax goes to the school district, and this year it'll be 64% of the property tax for people in the village goes to the school district. 10% goes to the town and the county of Westchester, and the town of Ossining and the county of Westchester, and 26% is what goes to the village. But that 26% covers virtually everything that you see and do and interact with every day. So from sanitation to our parks department to parking enforcement, code enforcement, a wide range of services fall under that 26%. And things that you might not even think of, but busy. And again, this is based on the average assessed village home, which is now assessed at $523,000 for $523,442. That's Village Home. So
Just
the
to be
10
clear also, that's this year's.
Yes.
It changes. It
Correct.
changes every year. We've gone on as much as 20% being village. This is more than that, but it does change. It fluctuates here and there a few percentage points. That's this year's.
Generally
Climate.
speaking, that's the distribution,
Yeah.
though. It may
It's close,
change
yeah.
slightly, but we'll get into some of the factors why
Mhm.
there's some variations year to year. So the total cost of the departments that we just mentioned, of everything we're doing for 2025 is anticipated at a little, almost $66 million. So that's a lot. However, less than 40% is paid for by property. The other aspects are paid by water fund, sewer fund is paid by the rate pay, water rates. Section 8 is essentially a self-funding program, and also try to use grants and other things to offset impact on the. So we're now going to speak about the general fund. We have a general fund and a water fund. I'll get into that again. General fund is what's paid for out of your tax dollars. Water fund and the sewer fund are paid by your water rate bills. So total appropriations year to year, 24 to 25, we see an increase, a slight increase of 4.41%. This is due mostly to costs associated with personnel benefits, contractual agreements. The total to be raised by taxes, we've identified as little under $26,000 for this year, which is 2.3% higher than last year. Again, we also are subject to inflation, but we do try to very hard to stay within the tax cap, and we've done that successfully this year as well. And the change in the average assessed value of a home, as I mentioned, went up 7.21%. What that does is give us a bigger pie. And that bigger pie allows us to lower the tax rate, which was lowered by almost 4% from 2024 to 2020. So the tax cap is always an interesting conversation. And I want to thank Dale for always patiently answering all my questions on this. And sometimes things change year to year too on how we calculate the tax cap. But basically, our legislation states that we have to stay within a levy of either 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is less for every year. So not surprisingly, 2% was less for 2025, and our levy is a little over $506,000. However, we do have a little bit of places to increase that with a growth factor that's dictated by the state. We do calculate the net difference of our pilots. So that's the pilots come on the rolls, off the rolls. The net difference is calculated into the allowance, as well as a small percentage of the total cost for police and retirement benefits. And that's a small percent of the total benefits received, but we do get to allow for that as well. That brings our tax cap allowable amount up to a little over $590,000. So we have a total of 2.3% total tax cap increase. And that gives us the adjusted tax levy of $25,834,995. And we are under the tax cap by $10,005. That cannot be carried over. So we were very careful to get as close to the tax cap, but stay under it so that we could maximize the use of that increase, which is still lower than the rate of inflation.
Okay, so what is the rate of inflation being used right now?
The rate of inflation, Dale, do you know that?
He's on, right?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, Yes, right now, when we calculated for budget purposes, because many of our IMAs are tied to rate of inflation, we use the August inflation rate, which came in at 3.70% for this year.
Okay. And Dale, generally speaking, the rate of inflation has been higher than the 2%, right? For the past, who knows how many years, I would
Yeah,
say.
yes,
So the cap doesn't
quite a
actually,
few.
yeah, so, well, at least a decade. So the cap doesn't even stay with inflation.
No,
Okay,
that's correct.
okay.
Um, Next slide, please. So where does that money go? Which is a good question. A large percentage, 32%, goes to benefits. That's healthcare, retiree benefits. But also, almost equally large percentage goes to public safety. Our police department, building department, code enforcement, traffic control, all of the things that keep us safe and improve our quality of life in our community. Also have.
Is the public safety salaries and benefits under the blue pie up on top or the orange pie slice? Where does the cost of
So the
people
total
go?
operational cost of public safety, that would be staffing and, everything that goes into public safety, all of the budgets under the police department, the building code enforcement department, elements of traffic and like that, that would all be under the 30%.
Right. So would you say that if you were to take that pie and put the cost of people, salary, benefits, et cetera, and pull it out of the public safety piece and put it into, I actually can't read it from here, but the blue is, I think, benefits and salaries. What percentage of that?
So we will get to
Oh, you'll
a
do it?
slide that gets
All
to
right.
that, but
I'm-
this is
I'm
the
going into
employee
too much
benefits
detail?
here. The
Okay.
32% is actually strictly healthcare benefits and retirement benefits. Salaries would be within the pie segment for each department, the actual operational salaries.
Okay.
So, and again, I think that, it's fairly self-explanatory. General government support, 14%, that's our admin. Transportation at 6% is highway department. Culture and recreation, which is essentially our Parks and Rec and Youth Bureau, is 9%. And home and community services, which would be zoning, planning, and sanitation, is about 5%. Slide, please. So how do we pay for all this? Again, we mentioned that total budget, which includes the water fund, is about 40% from property taxes. When we're looking strictly at the general fund, that amount of property tax is a little bit higher, 57% for this year. But we also have non-property tax revenue, which would be pilots and tax penalties, as well as intergovernment charges, which are IMAs, departmental income, that would be income fees from programs and the like, licenses and permits, which is primarily out of the building department. So various other revenue streams, which the largest is property tax revenue. Okay, so when we're looking at appropriations, and I think, Mayor, this answers the question that you were asking. Personnel services, which is salaries, is about 43% of the total general fund budget. Contractual, which would be equipment, supplies, day-to-day equipment and supplies, 19%, and benefits, and again, retirement, healthcare, 32%.
So basically, 5% salary, benefit.
Correct. I mentioned we have a general fund and then we have water and sewer fund. The water fund, again, paid for through water rates. The source of water is our primary cost at 24%, and that's the water that we buy from New York State. through the Croton, New York City rather, through the Croton Reservoir. We also have some of our water coming from our own village-owned reservoir in the town of Ossining, the Indian Brook Reservoir. The purification and transmission are all part of the functions of our water treatment plant and our water distribution system. That total is about over 26%. That's about right. And administrative expenses, 14%. Again, a portion for benefits and a portion for debt service, particularly now that we are entering a phase where we will be building the new water treatment plant that has broken ground and doing some other work on the water system that's been bonded for. Sewer fund, which is the next slide, is just basically mimics one more. Go one ahead. Right there, yeah. So that basically mimics the water fund, just at a smaller scale. Next slide, please. We have our Section 8 program. So this is also the housing voucher program. It's a federal funded program. And it does provide rental relief to people who qualify based on income. The idea of the program is to benefit landlords in that it pays a differential between the income of the person and what the market rate rent is for a particular apartment. So it's a great way, especially in a community where we know rents are high, for people who are essential workers and other people who play a very valuable role in our community to be able to live and stay in our community. We are in a challenge now because of the housing crisis and because of the cost of housing that are paid based on the number of vouchers we can award, and it's becoming more and more challenging to award those vouchers. However, Maryland, our Section 8 department does an exceptionally good job and a valuable program here. Slide, please. Just some of the highlights. In addition to the day-to-day work that we're doing here, we did have some nice highlights and accomplishments in 2024. We secured $10 million funding for the Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant. So that brought the up to a little over $17 million in total grant funding. But that was a nice offset to what is probably our largest and most expensive capital improvement project in the history of the village. We also secured $775,000 in press grants, which were awarded from our state assembly person, Levenberg, and our Senator Pete Harcum, and they fund various projects from decontamination equipment for the fire department to hybrid vans for Youth Bureau, renovation of the police department communication center, and they offset costs of new roofs at both the courthouse here, where we are tonight, as well as the community center. Successfully ratified a 5-year collective bargaining agreement with the Civil Service Union from 2025 to 2029. And we completed several major projects that were started in 2023, some of them earlier, but the Five Corner intersection, which was done with a SAM grant from former Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff of $1,000, but that allowed us to address longstanding issue with safety and configuration of that intersection. And not only that, we have e-bikes and planters adorning it now, so quite an improvement from what it was. We're able to use community development block grant funding to do a sidewalk placement project that facilitated walkability and ADA accessibility along James Street between 9 and State Street. We hope to get more CDBG money in the next round to continue those projects down in the Spring Street and James Street area. The Sparta Park Playground was replaced with a CREST grant from Senator Harcum, and we completed the renovation of the community center pool and locker room, and that was also, we received a SAM grant for that, totaling $500,000 from former Assemblywoman Sandy. 80% of zoning changes. A project that was initiated by the board and spearheaded, I want to say, by Trustee Casada to streamline our code sections is now complete. We didn't think we would be able to get through as much as we did, and we're very happy to make those changes, which facilitate our ability to not only enforce codes, but also for people to be compliant with codes, rewarding good actors and making sure people who are not doing what they're supposed to be doing are held accountable for that. You're named Tree City for the 4th year in a row, and we are working with the EAC on a tree preservation law. And we also received a grant from NYPA, our Power Authority, which was enabled us to plant 28 trees in village parks in the fall of 2024. But prior to that, you might remember we planted, I think, over 80 trees in Nelson Park and Nelson Sitting Park. So we understand that sometimes trees have to come down for various reasons. We're always very sad to lose a tree, but we are working our best to make sure that we're replacing them, hopefully in a greater percentage than we are taking them down. Are also making sure that we are fostering easier ways to recycle with the conversion to a free Recycle Coach recycling app for 2025. That is the collective work of the staff, board-led projects, and our volunteer committees helping on those initiatives.
Can I, I'm not sure, I'm sorry, maybe I should wait for the next slide because there's a couple things missing, but maybe you're continuing.
Correct.
I'll wait.
Well, maybe. Let's hope. We were doing a lot, so those were highlights. There might have been some things off, but
Well, these are capitals,
the
so
next- yeah. So
let me
the-
then ask, the e-bike rollout, was that really not this year, but last year? Is that why it's not on the previous slide?
It's on this slide. So this is.
Oh, you
I sort
consider
of
that a
broke it up.
capital?
So some highlights that were not necessarily specific to the actual progress reports we've been sending out, just some other highlights of grant funding one and projects that were completed that had fallen off our list. But to go ahead, we did have a lot of highlights to be continued. These are predominantly capital projects. Have made great strides thanks to Maddie Zahach and her work with the police department and the clerk's office and corporation council to implement changes and recommendations that were suggested by Nelson Nygaard when we did our original parking study a few years ago. Pay kiosks were introduced in Market Square lots and on Main Street, and our new online permit portal is live. So we're happy to be advancing those, and they actually are doing what they intended to do and keeping traffic turned over in our shopping districts. Route 9 road diet, we are working, if you remember a few years back, we received a $4 million federal grant for the road diet, and been working on this project since 2021. And we're working now with the DOT, the Department of Transportation, to finalize the design. And ideally, we will be going out to bid and then constructing the road diet between Sure, that project is done. Sorry about that. DPW site development or 30 Water Street, that project has closed and it's scheduled to break ground soon, within the coming months, with a completion plan for 2027. That's 109 units of all affordable housing, as well as some shop space and community space. And the continuation of the Sing Sing Hill walkway under Central Avenue down to the waterfront, or right down to Station Plaza, rather. The Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant, as I mentioned before, is under construction. Completion plan for 2027. CDBG project, which we will talk about in a little bit more detail later in the meeting during continuing business. But we do have funding that was dedicated for this year for the installation of a new interactive and accessible playground. Likely it'll be 2025, but always a chance we'll get in earlier. But Spring Street Streetscaping Phase 2, again, continuation of that street work that we did on James Street, now on Spring Street, will be under construction in 2025. Project Mover, our e-bike launch. We had a ribbon cutting recently, and phase 2 of the ownership model is scheduled for winter of 25. Joseph J. Caputo Community Center with our downtown revitalization initiative funding. We are underway with the design phase, which is very exciting, and we plan a phase construction for 25 and 26. And hopefully that will leave us with a beautifully redesigned community center that has a lot more facility in the space that exists right now. Our multimodal transportation hub, also known as a parking structure, also funded in part by the DRI. We are in the process of finalizing that design. Our consultants will be here on December 4th to present that design. And once the design is approved, we'll go out to bid, and construction will be planned for 2025, probably completing the project early 2026, if not sooner, really. The Main and Spring Street lots, we will be working with Wilder Balter for community input on the final design of that mixed-use market rate rental project. We'll be getting information that we can use for the land use acquisition agreement and the pilot, as if there is a pilot, and make that determination. We anticipate it will go to the planning board in 5 and probably be completed 27, 28, around there sometime, depending on when it starts. We are working on a riverfront resilience plan, which we did receive a grant for. So that's a job that we're working on now, a project. And this is in collaboration with our waterfront stakeholders, Westerly Marina and Chatham, really looking at ways to improve resiliency from level rise, as well as create greater public access along the riverfront that would be beneficial to our partners down there as well. And the long-awaited digital signage at 16 Croton Avenue, all this month, minute now, any day. Excited. And for 2025, we have a lot of things planned, and again, we will continue making sure that when we plant things that are indigenous, native species that help with meaning of our village. As terms of other sustainability initiatives, we do everything with a forethought to decarbonization strategies and continuing greening of our municipal fleet, as well as didn't put it in here, but solar arrays too, planned for several roofs in our new roofs that we will be installing. With regard to facilities, we are going to be investing in our buildings to make sure that we're addressing any maintenance issues proactively, which is the
Karen,
most.
I just want to say that I hear you talking about all the stuff. It's not matching up to the page up.
Am
Okay.
I on the wrong page? Go to the next page and then
I
we'll go
don't know.
backwards one. I'm sorry, I can't see the screen and see my paper at the same
I
time.
know,
but
that's why I just,
Thank you for that.
is this, okay.
All right, so I had it
Got it.
reversed. We'll
No,
just go back.
you
to the-
got it right. It just,
Okay, so, sorry about that. We have, again, a preventive maintenance program in place, but we're also doing projects like our new water treatment plant, some work on our firehouses, our transportation hub, the community center, but also, and again, the solar arrays for the projects wherever possible. We also would like to foster a high degree of community access in government, and I really want to acknowledge the work that Jamie Hoffman's done, as well as the police department, in engaging people through social media and being able to communicate things and getting stuff out there. We like it when we get compliments about this, but this is really Jamie's takes the ball and runs with it and makes sure everything we do is communicated in a way that's consistent and reliable. And it dovetails really well with the work that the police department do in their social media efforts as well. So we want to continue that. We want to continue making sure we can activate our youth bureau and our youth council to get more involved in community engagement, which is a really wonderful opportunity, has been working very well so far on the engagement we've done up to date on some of the major projects. So now back to the slide I missed. So staffing, we try to be as efficient as possible, work with attrition to make sure we're maximizing right positions, the right people in the right place, and doing as good a job as we can on onboarding and customer service, training, de-escalation, as well as cybersecurity savvy, which is incredibly important in this day and age. Working with the personnel department, also to find savings through attrition. We anticipate further negotiations with the Police Benevolence Association for a contract that will take them from 2022 forward. And we're pursuing grant funding that advances capital operations and planning goals. So this way, we're not necessarily trying to create new projects and go over grants for completely new initiatives, but we're really trying to be strategic in making sure that the things we need, that the things we know the public wants, the board directive, that we can offset taxpayer expense to the greatest degree possible and to get the biggest bang for our buck. We're making sure we can access all grant opportunities possible to make those things become a reality. We'll be continuing our community and economic development. These are things I have said before, so I'm not going to reiterate them, but we are working on a lot of different projects that will continue throughout 2025. And so that is the very top line overview of the 2025 tentative budget. This budget will be posted on the village website and you can find it there. And comments can be submitted via email to BOT at, actually it should be villageofaustining.org will work, but also we have upgraded to us.newyork.gov. I'm sorry, and but just use this one for now. We have a schedule of public meetings that we will be meeting with the board again to go every single line of this budget with the board. Those meetings are public and they will be recorded. So I urge you to view those meetings. And for more information, you can always contact me as well, either by email or at Village Hall, 914-941-5554.
Thank you. Always a lot of work. Probably a couple of months of regular ongoing meetings. This is great. We always look to be within the tax cap, so, and that the rate has gone down again. I don't know what number year it is, but it's been a while, right? Every year for, I don't know, I want to say 8 years, but I'm not sure I'm right. I'm looking too, because I think like,
It is actually almost like it's been 8.
maybe 9 years. Yeah, that's like, that's a big deal. I mean, it's sort of a complicated concept, but it is a big deal. The only thing I want to ask, so thanks for the overview. The numbers on the top line look good. That's sort of the most important. The rest has to add up to that and remove, it's like a big chessboard and you might want to move a piece here and a piece there, which the board looks at. We've spent years where, there were entire sections the board, whoever's on the board didn't like, and there was a lot of back and forth, but this is all good. I'm sort of also curious personally of what projects we're not going to be doing, that we didn't do in 24 and that we're not going to be doing. One comes to mind. There aren't a lot, but I think the public has to be aware that we don't just keep adding, although it's a good thing to do. When you're in a municipality, you want to improve things every day. There are also a couple of things that I think in 24 didn't come to fruition, and I'm not sure they're going to be coming back, or if they come back, they're coming back in a different form, so that people aren't looking for them and saying, where is this project? The one that comes to mind, Karen, is at the train station with the solar panels. I just think that it's important to be very forward and say, we analyze, we look, some things don't come out exactly. More typical is that things get delayed, either beyond our control or they're part of a grant that has a couple of paragraphs that we have to answer to, and that takes another 6 months and 6 months. But we do have a few things that we do take off the table. Either we want to take them off or just didn't work the way we wanted to, and it's not a good use of people's time or money. So I could think of only one, but are there, besides or in addition to that, can you think of something else?
The train station solar array probably is the one, the first time we decided that we weren't going to go forward with a grant-funded project. We will likely be working with New York Power Authority under that same program, the Community Solar Program, on other buildings. Like we've actually talked to them about the desire to have solar arrays on the rooftop of this building, of the community center, at the parking structure hub. So in a sense, we are just evolving that. What we found is that it's an extremely volatile energy market, and things don't always go as planned. A lot of these subsidized projects are really dependent on a lot of factors. So not only the volatility of the energy markets, but the availability of resources, of steel, construction materials, timing. So sometimes as we go through this process, from the time you get the award to the time the state picks in this case, it was a private sector vendor to execute it, to the time you try to do it and get the community around it, things change. And what we found is that it was becoming a little bit too unpredictable. And we didn't want to be in a situation where we put people out of, people pay to park there. They wouldn't be able to park there for a time. We wanted to really minimize that. And it was getting a little bit iffy whether we could commit to a reasonable amount of time. That said, it's important. And the reality is when we do things that improve sustainability, there sometimes is an inconvenience cost. And we have to consider that too as we go forward. In this case, we realized that we had a lot of opportunity to reuse or to install solar arrays in other places. So we didn't feel like we were losing an opportunity, rather we were shifting that opportunity. There is a long lead time on government grants. We were awarded the contracts for the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. We were awarded the $10 million in 2021. We only received the contracts in early this year, I think, or the end of 2023. So during that time, things change. Budgets gets, estimates get stale, things change, things in the economy change, things in the community change. So what we try to do, and our government partners are usually very good with us working with this to kind of adjust things as we go through. And we will talk about that later on when we talk about the Nelson Park Sitting Park project, which again, an issue where an estimate now is not as what it was, and we may need more funding, and we want to talk to the board about how we would approach that.
Yeah, those were the only ones that I can think of. So I was wondering whether you had more than that. I think that's just responsible government. It's responsible board behavior as well to say sometimes things just got more expensive than we want them to be, and they're not reasonable. Or, a lot of these are outdoor projects. And given where we live, months out of the year, you can't do work outdoors, and it's more than a little inconvenient. So just want to let the public know, for those watching us, recording, whatever, that, we want to do a lot of great things, but sometimes we have to say it's a little bit beyond the budget. It's no longer where we want to be with that project. Okay. Now, let me turn it over. Should I start from the right this time? Newly re-elected trustee White?
I have
Questions at
no
this point?
comments at this time, but I look forward to digging into these numbers.
Sure.
Yeah, same, Karen. One of the things that I'm most struck by is how in the last couple of years, you said this is your fifth budget, not necessarily for your first one, but especially the last couple, there's been so much uncertainty. And so a lot of the questions that we've had are about, so how are you making the assumptions that you are, and how can we be sure what the trade-offs may be, and that kind of thing. We're in a world now where there's less of that economic uncertainty anyway, that there was in previous years where, well, the price of wood is so expensive, and what about this, and that kind of thing. Given all of that, I think that I hold both equal amounts excitement for the number of things that we have going on in the village, and I share some of the mayor's, I don't know, I don't want to say concern, but I want to make sure that it is sustainable, right? I want to make sure that this is your fifth of 50 budgets, that you have many budgets to come and that you're really excited by them, and not feel like, oh, well, we did 8 of these things and I'm done. All right, on to the next person. It's too much. And we have a wonderful team of strong people, but that's, I hold that within me as well. So thank you for sharing that. I'm eager to get into the details.
Sure.
Thank you.
We'll discuss it at budget.
Good. Yeah, well, I think it's 5 days, right?
Yes.
Okay.
No comments, but I do want to say thank you to Dell, whole team in there, Maddie, Aaron, for manager out of that work. I do have a question, not related to budget, but something that you, Karen, did mention. One of the things that I got questions from several residents and also myself a little bit on this. It's like a silly project that I know it just started weeks ago. It's the new app, Cycling.
Oh,
So I'm not sure, sometimes it's Maddie. So I'm going to ask that question to you, Maddie. So this new app requires always have to sign in, have to file. All right, no problem. Is that any better? Okay. So my question to you is, in the previous app, we were having a problem with Tuesdays, the recycling and everything else, which never really got resolved. I know I spoke to you about that. In this new app, now Thursdays and Fridays are missing from the schedule. So when you have a question, because this is not controlled by us, this is controlled by somebody else. And so how is the community be able to resolve these issues regardless of sending things out to them? Because that's sort of like, it was simple. We used to mail them out. You used to have a copy, or you can still print them out, obviously. You can still have the ability, but a lot of people, I use the app all the time. But now, if I don't see Thursday, it was like, is that a holiday? I know it's not sometimes. So how do you resolve these issues?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So just to give a little bit more background, so we have been using for the last, I think it's 3 years, what's called the Recycle Right app, which was something we did in partnership with many other communities in Westchester County and Sustainable Westchester. It took a little bit of getting used to, but I think folks like yourself got used to it and it was working pretty well. Unfortunately, the company, I mean, there was a charge associated with it. So it was basically a consortium of, I want to say maybe 10 or 15 communities in Westchester that were all paying together. You would pay a year behind, then you'd have to apply for a grant to get the 50% back, and it was a little cumbersome. Westchester County stepped up to the plate and said, you know what, we can probably do this, and we can do it for free. So they started talking to us, I think it was in April of this year, it was fairly recent, and said, we're going to be rolling out what's called Recycle Coach for 2025. So there are some kinks for sure. But basically, we were pushed off of Recycle Right onto this. Recycle Right, if you went into the App Store right now, it's no longer available to download. So that app is gone. So to answer your question more directly, DPW is the one who's working primarily with Westchester County to sort of iron out the issues. I know Jamie has looped me in on a handful. We haven't gotten a ton of complaints, but people who have had a couple questions, such as what you just proposed. This is the first I'm hearing that there's no Thursday, Fridays on there. Certainly something that we can look into with the help of the folks at DPW. But certainly if anybody has a question, if something's wrong in the schedule, they can email me. They can pick up the phone and call DPW. We appreciate your patience. This is really like week 1 of using this new technology. And like I said, they built it, specifically for us. So there's certainly going to be some kinks, but I believe DPW is also mailing out the schedules this year just to make sure that nobody sort of gets lost in the shuffle as we're making this transition. So folks can be expecting the 2025 schedule to appear sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. And I think that'd be helpful. So in regards to that, so let me ask you another silly question. Why do we have to create an account to use this app and the other app we didn't have to do, just to put an address on it. Is that
Um,
something that
I-
we require or something that we can request to be removed out of that
We
system?
can certainly request it, but again, since they built it for us, this might be something the county is requiring. I can inquire and get back to you. I don't know the answer.
That'd be
I don't
great.
know why it would be necessary. Obviously they need to know your address so that they can give you the right information about
100%,
service,
correct.
but why you would need to register, first name, last name, email account, I'm not certain
Yeah, 'cause-
why that would be justified. We
Yeah.
can certainly ask.
That would be great.
Mhm.
If you can get back to us, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, of
All
course.
right, thank you.
Sure.
And that was it.
Manny, I'm sorry, you said there wasn't anything on Fridays?
Thursdays and Fridays.
I mean,
Well-
because I'm looking at it and I see.
But it's address specific, so it
address
may be
specific.
whatever route you're
So
on is separate from what Trustee Casada is on, and they might have had a
So I have Thursdays. I have other people that have said they don't have Fridays. Route. So on my route, I know they pick up metals and other items and recyclings on Thursdays. Up garbage.
Mm.
Have nothing in
Oh, okay.
recycling.
Because for me, that's Friday, yeah.
Yeah, we'll ask them to double check. Like I said, it's only been a couple days. And again, haven't heard about that until this very moment. So
And what does that mean that they created this for us? Who's us in that sentence?
My understanding is that Westchester County is deploying this as a shared service, whereas
Whoever you want to,
the whole county, yes.
so it's not us as an Austining, it's us as in every municipality in Westchester County.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Corporation Counsel, Stuart Kahan.
Thank you, Sue. Good evening, folks. This evening, there will be two local laws presented to the board for its consideration for adoption. The first will deal with the general penalties under the village code. The other will deal with basically what we call the peace and good order section or chapter of the village code. That deals with, it'll deal with smoking, vaping, drone usage. We're also calling for public hearings tonight with regard to the electric vehicle charging stations, that has gone to the planning board and come back, as well as with regard to the proposed local law relating to multiple utility poles. Both of those public hearings would be scheduled for the 20th of November. And there is also a referral of a proposed text amendment to the zoning code, which is essentially a cleanup of something that was not made part of the main zoning code amendments that were passed and are now in effect. And those will be on this evening's agenda. Thank you.
And Police Chief Aaron Zimmerman.
Good evening. I'll keep it brief. Over the last week and a half, we met with the PRAC and held our first two sector meetings throughout the village. First meeting was at the Star Bethlehem Church and was sectors 1, 2, and 3, which is sort of the downtown area, anything east of Route 9. And then a day and a half later up at St. Paul's on the Hill, we did sectors 4, 5, and 6, which encompass the western part of town and the town of Austin, western part of the village. Both meetings went swimmingly. So one was better turnout than the other, but
What was the turnout in the one? What was the turnout in each?
the first one at the Star, there was, I'd say, about 20 people in attendance. At the St. Paul's on the Hill, other than committee members and clergy, 2.
Okay. So it's 20 in addition to clergy and committee members at Star and,
Correct.
okay.
Correct. So I think they both went well. The feedback we got was positive, and see how it rolls into 2025.
Great.
That's all I got.
Great. Organizational announcements. Announcements should be event related only and shall be no longer than 2 minutes in length. Is there anyone in our virtual world that would like to talk about a organizational announcement? Oh, please raise your virtual hand if you want to do that.
You want
No?
to.
Moving on, public comment on agenda items. Visitors are accorded a 4-minute opportunity to address the board on any of the resolutions on the agenda. Is there anyone in our virtual world that would like to do that? Please raise your virtual hand. Moving on, visitor recognition. Visitors shall be accorded a 3-minute opportunity to address the board on issues not relating to the agenda, but relevance to the common good of the village. Is there anyone that wishes to heard in visitor recognition that is on Zoom this evening? Seeing no one, I'm going to move on to the village board resolutions. Approval of minutes. October 16th, 2024, resolved the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the minutes of the October 16, as amended, 2024 regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move as amended.
Comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of voucher detail report, November 6, 2024. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the voucher detail report dated November 6, 2024 in the amount of $1,568,275.56. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Questions? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adoption of, this will be a roll call vote. Adoption of local law 19-2024, a local law amending Chapter 1, Article 3, General Provisions, General Penalty for the Village of Austin Code. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin, the Village Board, has been considering the adoption of a proposed law 2024 entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 1, Article 3, General Provisions and General Penalty of the Village of Austin Code, and whereas a public hearing was conducted on October 16, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 16 Croton Avenue, Austin, New York, and via the Zoom platform affording members of the public the opportunity to be heard, and whereas the public hearing was closed on October 16, 2024, and whereas pursuant with Section 617.3F of the State Environmental Quality Review, or the SECRA regulations, no determination of significant environmental impact statement or findings statement was required for a Type 2 action, and whereas SECRA Regulation 617-5C lists Type 2 actions including routine and continuing agency administrative and management, and not including any new programs or major reordering of priorities that may affect the environmental, and the adoption of the regulation, policies, procedures, and the local legislation decisions in connection with any action in the Type 2 list, and whereas the proposed local law is a Type 2 action requiring no determination of significant pursuant with the SECRA regulations, and whereas there's no impediments to approving the proposed local law, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby adopts local law 19-2024, a local law amending Chapter 1, Article 3, General Provisions and General Penalty for the Village of Austin Code, and be it further resolved that local law 2024 shall become effective upon filing with the Secretary of State pursuant with the Municipal Home Rule Law. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Comments or questions?
Roll call vote. Trustee Fritchie.
Aye.
Trustee White.
Aye.
Trustee Casada.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Lopez. Mayor Levin.
Aye.
Thank you. Adoption of local law 2024, a local law amending Chapter 194, Peace and Good Order, General Ordinances for Quality of Life, and Chapter 190, Parks and Recreation in the Village of Austin Code. Again, a roll call vote. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin, Village Board, has been considering the adoption of the proposed local law 2024, entitled "A Local Law Amending Chapter 194, Peace and Good Order, General Ordinances for the Quality of Life, and Chapter 190, Parks and Recreation for the Village of Austin Code," and whereas a public hearing was conducted on September 30th and October 16th, 2024, at 7:30 at the Municipal Building, 16 Croton Avenue, Austin, New York, and via the Zoom platform, according to members of the public, affording the members of the public the opportunity to be heard, and whereas the public hearing was closed on October 16th, 2024, now whereas pursuant with the section of 617.3F of the State Environmental Quality Review, SECRA regulations, no determination of significant environmental impact statement or finding statement was required for a type 2 action, and whereas secret regulation 617.5C lists type 2 actions, including a routine and continuing agency administration and management, not including new programs or major reordering of priorities that may affect the environment, and adoption of regulations, policies, procedures, and local legislation decisions in connection to any actions of a type 2 list. And whereas the proposed local law is a type 2 action requiring no determination of significant pursuant with the secret regulations, and whereas there is no impediments to improving the proposed local law, now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby adopts local law 2024, a local law amending Chapter 194, Peace and Good Order, General Ordinances for Quality of Life, and Chapter 190, Parks and Recreation for the Village of Austin Code. And be it further resolved that the local law 2024 shall go into effect upon filing with the Secretary pursuant with the municipal home rule. Municipal home. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Any comments or questions? Stuart, can you give me the elevator speech? This one's hard to understand for the general public, so can you just put it in English for everybody?
Yes, three main parts to it. If you decide to use the outdoors as a bathroom, you can't use it either on public or private property because you will be ticketed. It is it removes some of the restrictions that are in the current law. It creates new rules with regard to smoking and vaping, particularly in public parks or any property that is owned or leased by the village. And it also includes rules and regulations for the operation of drones.
Thank you. This was discussed, and the board is aware of it previously a number of times, but I just wanted to make sure that if somebody's watching this without having heard the other pieces, that they just understand that we usually discuss the week or two before these meetings, and then we vote today. But just a reminder, because this one is written in a way that I think is a little bit more difficult to understand. Sue?
Roll call vote. Trustee Fritchie.
Aye.
Trustee White.
Aye.
Trustee Casada.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
And Mayor Levin.
Aye.
Call for public hearing, local law 2024, entitled "The Local Law Amending Chapter 270 Zoning and Adding a New Article 18, Electric Vehicle Charging Stations, amending Chapter 270, Section 270-29, Signs, and amending Chapter 270, Section 270-7, District Boundaries of the Village of Austin Code." Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 p.m. on November 20th at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Austin, New York, to consider proposed local law 2024 entitled "The Local Law Amending 270 Zoning by adding a new Article 18, Electric Vehicle Charging Stations, amending Chapter 270, Section 270-29, Signs, and amending Chapter 270, Section 270-7, District Boundaries of the Village of Austin Code, and be further resolved that the proposed local law amends Chapter 270 zoning by introducing a new article for electric vehicle charging stations, including a new provision for lighting of certain signs, and amends the section regarding district boundaries where ownership of record is divided into one or more municipal boundary lines. And be it further resolved that the members of the public are invited to attend the public hearing in person at the above referenced location, and be it further resolved that the members of the public requiring a reasonable accommodation to participate in the public hearing due to a person's disability shall notify Corporation Counsel no later than 7 days before the public hearing at kahan@villageofaustining.ny.gov to afford the village significant time to provide reasonable accommodations, and be it further resolved that those members of the public who want to attend and participate in the public hearing remotely, access will be available on Zoom platform. And be it further resolved that comments regarding the proposed local law will be accepted by the Board of Trustees at BOT@villageofaustining.ny.gov. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Any questions or comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Call for public hearing, local law 2024, titled A Local Law Amending Chapter 229, excuse me, 229 Streets and Sidewalks in the Village of Austin Code. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 PM on November 20th at the Birdsall-Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Austin, New York, to consider proposed local law 2024 entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 229 Streets and Sidewalks of the Village of Austin Code, and be it further resolved that the proposed local law amends Chapter 229 by adding a new Part 4, Article 10, utility poles, and be it further resolved that members of the public are invited to attend the public hearing in person at the above referenced location, and be it further resolved that members of the public requiring reasonable accommodation to participate in the public hearing due to a person's disability shall notify Corporation Counsel no later than 7 days prior to the public hearing at kahan@villageofaustinny.gov to afford the village significant time to provide a reasonable accommodation. Be it further resolved that those members of the public who want to attend or participate in the public hearing remotely, access will be available via the Zoom platform, and be it further resolved that comments regarding the proposed local law will be accepted at the Board of Trustees at BOT@villageofAustinny.gov. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Comments, questions? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Call for a public hearing of the Village of Austin's 2025 budget. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 PM on November 20th at the Birdsall-Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Austin, New York, to consider the Village of Austin's 2025 budget, and be it further resolved that members of the public are invited to attend the public hearing in person at the above referenced location. Be it further resolved that those members of the public who want to attend and participate in the public hearing remotely, access will be available on the Zoom platform, and be it further resolved that the comments regarding the Village of Austin 2024 budget will be accepted by the Board of Trustees at BOT@villageofAustinny.gov. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Any questions or comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Referral to a proposed zoning text amendment to the planning board, whereas pursuant with section 270-59 of the Village of Austin Code, this chapter and any part thereof shall be amended, supplemented, or repealed from time to time by the village board on its own motion and upon recommendation of the planning board prior to the public hearing. Every proposed amendment shall be referred by the village board to the planning board for report, shall be rendered within 62 days of such referral. And whereas the Board of Trustees is considering an amendment to Chapter 270 zoning, Section 270-17C-O, professional office district, conditional uses, revisiting the residential use of minimal living floor area of 800 square feet, which is consistent with Table B2. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant with the section 270-59, the Village of Austin Code, the Board of Trustees refers the proposed zoning text amendment to the Planning Board, and be it further resolved that the Planning Board shall issue its report on the proposed changed amendments from the Zoning Board within 62 days of this referral. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Any comments? Stuart, just give me a brief of what's happening here.
Yes, Mayor. As the board is aware, the zoning code was significantly revised just a few months ago. The use table or the bulk, what we call the bulk regulation table, has for the PO professional office district a minimum of 800 square feet for livable space. But the language in the code actually goes by habitable space and breaks it down by type of living unit. We wanted the two to be consistent. My thanks to Joe Augustinelli for pointing that discrepancy out. So this is essentially a cleanup.
Okay, again, any questions or comments? Okay, Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
overgrowth assessment, 25 Ann Street, whereas, say the names for me,
Liebisch Fader and Hillel Waldman
are the owners of 25 Ann Street, 89.19-1-34 property, and whereas pursuant with section 88.8 of the Village of Austin Code, the owners were notified by the building department of overgrowth of the property and was to be removed within 10 days of the notice, and whereas the owners failed to remove the overgrowth, and whereas pursuant with 88-10 of the code, the village arranged to have the overgrowth removed, and whereas the overgrowth was removed by Diego's Landscaping and Construction Corporation on September 16th, 2024, at the village's request, and whereas the owners were sent a notice of proposed assessment of the costs and notice of hearing, noting the total amount due was $240, consisting of the invoice of the work performed, $200, plus a 20% administration fee, $40. And whereas at the hearing on November 6, 2024, the Board of Trustees discussed the assessment, and now therefore be it resolved that the itemized costs noted below is just and reasonable, and will be further resolved that the amount of so assessed not paid within 30 days after the assessment by this board, an action to recover the amount of assessed will be maintained by the Village of Austin against the property owner, or a special warrant may be issued by the board for the collection of such assessment in the amount thereof, including the next annual tax levy, included in the next annual tax levy. So it's the property at Ann Street, and the total amount due is $240. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Any questions or comments? What?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Resolution J, resolution of the Village of Austining Board of Trustees in support of the New York State Pro-Housing Community Initiative. Whereas the Village of Austining believes that the lack of housing for New York residents of all ages and income levels negatively impacts the future of New York State's economic growth and community well-being. And whereas the housing crisis has negative effects at regional and local levels, and we believe that every community must do their part to contribute to housing growth and benefit from the positive impacts a healthy housing market brings to communities. And whereas we believe that supporting housing production of all kinds in our community will bring multiple benefits, including increasing housing access and choices for current and future residents, providing integrated, accessible housing options that meet the needs of people with sensory and mobility disabilities, bringing economic opportunities and vitality to our communities, and allowing workers at all levels to improve their quality of life through living closer to their employment opportunities. And whereas we believe that evidence showing that infill development that reduces sprawl and supports walkable communities has significant environmental and public health benefits. And whereas we believe that affirmatively furthering fair housing and reducing segregation is not only required by law, but is essential for keeping our community strong and vibrant. And whereas the village has made numerous steps toward combating the housing crisis with a growing affordable housing program through the implementation of inclusionary zoning and the EPTA program. And whereas the Village of Austining has over 275 new housing units that are expected to go online or break ground in 2025, which will be an approximately 3% increase in housing units. And whereas the village was awarded the Downtown Revitalization Initiative in 2021 and anticipated additional housing is forthcoming as a result of that process. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Austining, in order to take positive steps to alleviate the housing crisis, adopts the Pro-Housing Communities Pledge, which will have us endeavor to take the following important steps. 1. Streamlining permitting for a broad range of housing. 2. Adopting policies that affirmatively further fair housing. 3. Incorporating regional housing needs into planning decisions. 4. Increasing development capacity for residential uses. 5. Enacting policies that encourage a broad range of housing development. Do I have a motion?
Second?
Questions or comments?
Yes, Stuart, can you just elaborate on bullet point 1, streamlining?
Yeah.
Maddie, are you able to assist with that? Thank you.
I am. Good evening again. So just to give a little bit of context, this is the version that I think this is the second version that we've worked on of this resolution. We have departed a bit from the language in the original version that HCR put forth. A broad range of Are you questioning the word streamlining or?
Yeah, that concerns me.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
was not
I mean-
really
Greatly
part of the
concerns me.
conversation.
Well, okay, so we did talk about this version of the resolution. Streamlining, I don't think we discussed what that would entail. I think it can entail whatever the board would like it to entail. But basically, the objective of the resolution wholesale is to get rid of unnecessary obstacles to building the housing that is needed in the community. I don't believe this commits us to anything in particular, just the idea in general that this is a policy, a program that the village board agrees with.
Oh, were you going to say something?
No, I wanted to understand why we're streamlining all of a sudden for this.
Right. So that actually has been a regional and a statewide issue. If you believe that it has to be streamlined, then you also have to believe that the current state of how we permit everybody else is not efficient. Because why would you need to streamline something that's efficient? That's actually been a barrier in many other municipalities. I'm not saying that anybody here did something wrong. I don't remember a specific discussion about streamlining. As far as, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I just think what we have in place is a fair and equitable system. If we didn't think it was fair and equitable, given all that we're doing now in development, then we should change all of it for everyone. So for me, I don't recall, I mean, maybe we did discuss streamlining. I just don't remember.
I don't
it.
recall discussing.
I know this has
and
gone back and forth.
What
so-
concerns me is if you're going to streamline for this, then we got to streamline for everybody.
Right. So I just don't know where this came from. I mean, I understand that we believe that we want to do as much as possible in the way the state has requested it. We also agreed as a board that we're not going to do word for word. What else? Did you say you have one or two? Was this the only one you had?
That's the only one I had.
Okay, let's go back to it. Does anybody have anything else? Okay, so it sounds like everything is fine. The streamlining, to me, seems inequitable. Because it actually, in this community, our biggest issue, I also noticed it says approximately 3%, but I thought, Karen, that the 3% was actually an important number and that we are exceeding it once we do, because that's, I think, what the state uses as their index, I think.
So when we spoke about this at the last work session, this is verbatim, the copy that we had recommended as the alternative for the states. So just to reiterate, I think that without, you know, without making sure that I think the intent of we are absolutely in compliance with the intent of the housing, the pro-housing resolution. It's always challenging when you're sort of streamlining the language, so to speak. I think that some of these things that what we're trying not to do is commit resources that are beyond our capacity to actually effectuate. And that's really the challenge here. So I don't remember speaking specifically whether it was approximately 3% or more. I don't remember that. Maddie, do you remember?
Yeah, I can jump in here. So originally we believed, because there's a bit of a look back period on this. If you have 3% growth that you can demonstrate in prior years, then you actually don't have to pass this resolution at all, because in fact, you've already done it. You've already
Right.
complied.
Right.
When we uploaded all the documentation into HCR's portal, they determined that in fact, we had fallen short of the 3%. The difficulty lies in the fact that we have many units in the pipeline that, for whatever reason, and COVID is a big one, have been in front of the planning board. They have all their approvals, but they have not been able to start construction. So if things had been going forward at a normal pace, we probably would have well exceeded the 3%, and this wouldn't have been necessary. So that's
So
why
they're not counting the pipeline.
they're not
They-
counting the
they're
pipeline. It's only
counting
what's
real.
what's been permitted and
Okay,
and
well, that
built.
makes more sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
As far as the rest of the language, like I'm a firm believer that the permitting process we make as efficiently as, as efficient as possible, and we do it across the board, making sure we're maintaining the integrity of the process. So I think that one of the things that we have talked about internally is that we are streamlining a lot of things, and we're continuing to do that. I don't think it changes anything that we're doing in the permitting process right now, because we've already committed ourselves to the degree that we can streamline processes and take away obstacles that are unnecessary. We've already made the commitment to doing that across the board, generally speaking. So I don't think this commits us to doing anything more than we are already doing, which, if all things had been going as planned, we would be in compliance with this and wouldn't even have to do it in the first place. So,
Bob, want to
Well,
complete your thoughts? I don't want to speak for you.
It concerns me, the streamlining line. And it concerns me because we fell short, so we got to streamline so we can catch up. That's the feeling I'm getting. So, I'm fine with everything else. I'm just not up to speed with this streamlining. If we're going to streamline, then we got to do it across the board. So, so if I'm doing a job here, but it has nothing to do with what's in this resolution, is that job going to get streamlined along with this one, or is this one getting streamlined and then we're going to be lacking on this one?
no, there's no criteria, like we don't have a set criteria for what streamlining even means. It means what we want it to mean based on our system. So this would be pertaining to all housing development across the board. It's not specific to any subsidized program or any state funded program. This is what we're saying we're doing for all development. So, it's, again, I think it's a very real concern and consideration. In the context of this, the idea is that we are facilitating the smart growth development that I think that the board has already been committed to doing, and that's evidenced by the number of projects that were in the pipeline that, had they been completed, would have qualified us for the pro-housing resolution in the first place. But I don't think it changes anything in what we're doing. It's just when we adapted the verbiage in the existing document, this probably stayed from the existing one. But it doesn't necessarily, there's not a dictated procedure for streamlining. It is what we decide it is, and it should be, I think, absolutely consistent with everything else we do. It shouldn't be selective.
Build off of yeah. To build off of that, my understanding is that each one of these points is really meant to solve for an existing reason why housing isn't being built. So let's skip streamlining for a second. You take enacting policies that encourage a broad range of housing development. Well, we have heard of communities that say, well, we want housing if it's single family homes in this particular place and looks in this particular, that's what we want it to look like. And this says, well, we want to encourage all kinds, single family, multifamily, duplex, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so for the first one, that's another way that housing can be more difficult to build when the permitting process is very, very difficult. You have this administrative burden that makes it, whether it's a developer that wants to work on a large project or someone that wants to put on an ADR, if that's something that was allowed in the particular municipality. Often the permitting process is a way to slow down the building of new housing. And so this says that you are committing yourselves to not having that be an obstacle. But it's so broad, and like Karen said, you can define it however you want. It's really just saying, in spirit, we are going to ensure that our policies are not making it more difficult for housing to come about, which I think if you look at what we do, we're already in line with that.
Is the word streamlining essential? Can it be changed to something else? Like facilitating permitting or, I mean, something that doesn't sound like these will be treated in a special fashion. I don't know.
Is though, we are talking about every single unit of housing we build. We're not talking about, there's not a select group that we're talking about. I just want to make that distinction. So if we say we're streamlining, by default, we're doing that across the board. This is not specific to any project or
They took out
potential project.
the New York State, again, raised this to 20,000 feet. What the governor tried to do unsuccessfully is talk about more of a, you become part of pro-housing or you don't get funding. So that's gone away because that failed on the municipality. Came back with maybe this is a better way to say it. Maybe instead of the stick, we go with the carrot kind of thing. And many municipalities are not signing up. Once you agree to become pro-housing, you are saying, I'm part of this bigger group that says we are going to try to have more housing. It took out, I think, a lot, whether you agree with it or not, that it only is affordable, or only this, or only that, or that it's state funded. Maybe I'll come back to that. So I don't think the way it's written, I had the same reaction you did. Visceral. I don't like what the state did. I don't like them having chosen based on their criteria of a bunch of people sitting hundreds of miles from here and looking at things, including considering the Hudson River as part of our landscape, build on the Hudson. I don't like people doing these faraway analysis and telling municipalities, this is what you have, or we won't give you money. They won't give us back our tax dollars to the state. People don't react well to that. Yeah, we've worked through it, and we in Austin came. I think the fact that it's got the broad range, Bob, made me feel better than not, but this is housing. So it's market rate, it's condos, it's co-ops, it's affordable, it's like the whole bag. I think that is actually a better way to look at it. And I don't think we can have two streams of how we permit housing. That has to. I'm okay because I think with the broad range, but I had the same visceral reaction you did. But the more I read the broad range of housing, the more I feel like the broad range right away says definition, not a, it's not a broad range. I feel better. Around with streamlining, we're going to be here all night to do. It's covered with the other sentence for me anyway. Bob, do you have other ideas? I had the same reaction, so I'm just going on my gut here.
I'm trying to wrap my arms around it. I'm not warm and fuzzy with it. And then, then when you talk about state funding, we know what that does, the state funding. If it's state funded, you're lucky if residents get housing.
Well,
So that's a
by
whole nother,
law,
that's a whole
can't
nother
be
ball of
just for
wax.
residents, so that's the law, right?
I understand that, if it's state funded.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, I feel like we're better than we were in the beginning. I feel like we made it our own. I feel like the staff's put together some words that we can probably live with. And when we actually need to do something, or if some other mandate comes, generally unfunded mandate has been our experience with the state, we also don't have to accept money. I mean, I honestly have to say that over and over again. There is no law that says a municipality has to accept money to do projects, to be honest with you. So that's the other option. Anybody else? How are we feeling about it? Ready for a vote? We're in the middle of a vote, yeah? Sue?
Aye.
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 No.
I abstain.
One no.
Can I just add something to
Oh.
that? I'm gonna ask, since that this resolution has passed, this is
Excuse me.
my last turn for now, I guess, at some point of time, or see, streamlining just in the different definitions, and
Yeah.
whenever that comes along, you guys, I'm hoping you'll be the regards to that. Look into what in reality. I have a concern with all these points. Here it says adopting policies, incorporating regulations, housing needs into plan decisions, increasing development capacity for residential use, enacting policies to encourage the. So what that means to me, and I don't want to have a discussion, so I'm just making my comments
Yeah.
raised to the rest of the board, is we already did the updated to the comp plan. Looked at all.
Mhm.
So pretty much my understanding to do this is like, we want to encourage more residential, we need to go back and redo everything that we just did, what, 3 years ago? Less? Took
No
us,
longer than that.
well, 4 years ago. 4 years
Right.
ago, and it took us almost 2 years to get to that level. So I'm not sure about this whole
Right.
1, 2, 3, and 4 points. But again, that will be up to you guys. I'll be on the other side, making sure I raise my voice and my concerns at that
So
point.
I'm going to just tell you what I think about this statement. To me, the only thing that matters here is that we're already. So for me, all of this is
100%.
exactly, all the stuff in the pipeline is already there.
Yeah.
If you ask me, will I be considering more than what's in the current pipeline? For me personally, the answer is no. The pipeline is so full that I don't know where there's a single foot of
So,
land left
I
ready to build.
totally understand
Exactly.
that, but
The
again,
pipeline's already there and it meets
when the
this
board
criteria.
commits to this,
Yeah.
that's not what the impression it will look like. There's another project I'm gonna call 34 State Street at some point in time is gonna come back, sure, and that could be a project that will be funded by.
We don't have to
This.
approve any project that doesn't
Rika,
meet what we want.
I understand
Right.
that, but again, you're sitting here now,
Right,
or sitting here now.
yeah.
This policy doesn't end. This policy stays
Mhm.
unless the board decides maybe change it at some point. I don't recall the board ever changing or actually or eliminating any of the policy unless we modify to make it more strict. So again, that's just my 2 cents. The board has spoken, has the majority, so it passed. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you. Trust funding resolution, OPD Communications Room, whereas the New York State.
OFD.
Oh,
OPD.
OPD, what did I say?
Am I reading it wrong?
No,
Oh,
is the next.
OPD.
I'm on L, you're on
Oh,
K.
okay,
Sorry
I
about
apologize.
that, Sue.
That's, I'm tired, so.
No, you were
I could
right.
be reading the wrong.
You're right.
OPD Communications Room, whereas New York State Senator Pete Harckham has requested that the Village of Austin submit a proposal for community resiliency, economics, sustainability, technology CREST grant for the total of $100,000 for the renovation of the Austin Police Department Communications Room, and whereas the CREST application requires a letter stating that the Village of Austin will cover any cost of this project that exceeds $100,000. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Austin, the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin authorizes the village manager to sign the letter stating that the Village of Austin will cover any cost of this project that exceeds $100,000, but no more than $25,000 for a total project of $125,000. Do I have a motion?
No move.
Second?
Any comments or questions?
All in fa-
Are you ready?
Please.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trust funding resolution OFD, washer and dryer. Whereas New York State Senator Peter Harckham has requested the Village of Austin submit a proposal for community resiliency, economic sustainability, and technology, a CREST grant, for the total of $50,000 for the purchase of a washer or dryer equipment for PPE to be used at the Village of Austin Fire Department. And whereas the CREST application requires a letter stating that the Village of Austin will cover the cost of this project that exceeds $50,000. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Austin, the Village Board of Trustees authorizes the village manager to sign a letter stating that the Village of Austin will cover any cost of this project that exceeds $50,000, but no more than $10,000 for a total project cost of $60,000. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments?
Yeah, Karen, are these both in the pipeline? This is just a formality?
Yes, so these are 3 CREST grants. There's one that we're going to do after this that all require paperwork. I'm going to have another 2 coming in a couple of weeks, but all of these things, so they'll commit to, usually they're between $50,000 to $150,000. Sometimes they're higher. So there's a new requirement that say, because of escalating costs, so if a project now exceeds what you originally budgeted, because this all takes months and months and months and months to get done before you get the grant award, the grant agreement that allows you to start the project. If, say, the project goes to a certain amount and we can't do it anymore, which will happen, but this is now we're saying they want the municipality to guarantee, a sense, the overage on the particular project. So with these projects, we're pretty confident about the source of, the estimates. So while we're being somewhat conservative, we know that in these cases, they're not going to exceed by a tremendous amount. But we want to cover that, so we just go ahead and get the funding.
Thank you.
Aye.
CREST funding resolution, rec EV charging stations. Whereas the New York State Senator Peter Harcum has requested that the Village of Ossining submit a proposal for the Community Resiliency, Economic Sustainability and Technology, a CREST grant, for the total amount of $100,000 to purchase electric vehicle charging stations to be used to charge electric vehicles used by the Village of Ossining Park and Recreation Department and the Village of Ossining Youth Bureau. And whereas the CREST application requires a letter from the Village of Ossining to cover the cost of this project that exceed $100,000, now therefore be it resolved that the Village Board of Trustees authorizes the village manager to sign a letter stating that the Village of Ossining will cover any cost of this project that exceeds $100,000, but no more than $15,000 for a total cost project of $115,000. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Any questions or comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
You bet.
Okay, Fire Department appointment, Cataract Hose Company Number 2, resolved upon recommendation of the fire chief.
Rodrigo Malpartida de los Rios.
Ossining, New York was elected as an active member of the Cataract Hose Company Number 2 for interior firefighting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any questions or comments? Sue? Oh,
Stuart,
sorry.
very good.
Yes.
Okay. But this is a team. All in favor?
Always. Aye.
Any continuing business of the board?
There is, yes.
Oh, I apologize.
So we had talked about Nelson Sitting Park. That was, we had received funding of approximately, was estimated a little under $200,000 to do the new Sitting Park playground. And since, again, that job was originally estimated, remember, we applied for this around 2021. That was a 2024 project. So of course, the costs are now exceeding that. The latest estimate from the county is about $330,000. And this is, again, to fund the construction of a playground. There would be a portion of the playground that is for 5 to 12-year-olds, and it would include sensory-oriented equipment for children with disabilities and sensory disorders, as well as there would also be another section of the playground for 2 to 5-year-olds with some park benches, a little path. The estimate now is like, it went from a little under $200,000 to about almost $350,000. It still has to go yet for another estimate and out to bid. So what the county, this is a 50-50 match. So while we had initially budgeted $97,000 for this project, $98,000, we are now, if we would like to go through as originally designed, we're estimating that it might be more. We're not sure exactly how much more, but we can ask the county for up to $200,000. So in speaking to the county, they were fine with us asking for the additional monies. And then this is really, the discussion is, since this was a 2024 project, we can open the capital project this year. We don't have to wait till next year. And if the board is inclined, we can increase the funding that we would get from the county, as well as our match, recognizing that whatever the job comes in at, so whether it's $350,000, $400,000, $325,000, that we would be paying half of that. So it would be a way to maintain the playground to the size and scope that we had originally planned. Like many materials and things, we are seeing an escalation of costs. The one thing that's particularly expensive for these playgrounds is the safety surface that's being installed as a requirement by the county. And it does up the cost, but it does make for a safer, more sustainable playground. So the ask is, if the board is inclined, we just would need, we can come back at the next meeting with resolutions that would authorize us to ask for the additional money from CDBG and open the capital project, yes. For 2024, as opposed to pushing it off to 25.
You have a question? No, I'm waiting for you because I could see that you have a question. I have a comment. I'm going to wait.
Water park, what's the cost estimate for
Pardon me?
water park?
Florida Park was.
I know it's small, I know it's
It
not
was,
comparing
well, it was
Oh, it's
$100,000
100,000
total.
for that thing.
100.
Well, wait, no, it was, we got, yeah, that was $100,000. There was no match, though.
No, I understand
Yeah.
that, but was budgeted, $100,000 budgeted?
Yeah,
Budget?
yeah.
Okay.
It was budgeted and maybe it was like 98,000.
It was $93,000.
So it became $7,000.
Well, no, we Sparta Park was estimated, probably it was estimated a little less originally. When we got the estimate, that we had gotten $100,000 for that park. So I think the actual cost came in at like $98,000, and that's what we'll get reimbursed for.
Nelson City Park, nothing has changed, right? No, I get that. I'm talking about I'm not talking about the time frame. I'm talking about the design. Nothing has
The-
changed in the design.
The design hasn't changed
The
from
design hasn't changed.
the original estimate. So but the design is considerably more expansive than the Sparta Park that we just did is a neat little.
Oh, no, I get that.
Yeah. So the challenge is that when they originally estimated it, it was like around $200,000. Now it's increased to over $300,000.
That's, I mean, out of curiosity for me, because 3 years ago, everything was all actually expensive than is. Not that now it's cheaper. Price was different. Is actually has some level.
So we're relying.
That's what I'd be.
Yeah.
Because I don't want this to become like the same thing happened with the streets. Where the reason why we didn't do this is because it came out more than that, by the estimate. I'm curious to see who's doing all these estimates on the county level, not being fair for us.
My understanding, and Karen will correct me if I'm wrong, because I've only been tangentially involved in these projects. The CREST grant was a pretty quick turnaround time. CDBG, because we get design services through Westchester County, it took longer, but also Westchester County is imposing what I think Karen shared a couple minutes ago about the poured in place surface, which I'm not sure if that was a component of Sparta, but that's a necessary component of this, and it's also 3 times the size. And the reason that is necessary is because we're building for folks of different abilities. You have to be able to bring a wheelchair over to certain components and whatnot. So I think
Maddie,
the
but
poured
that
in,
was sorry, Maddie, but that was part of the original design.
I'm not sure if it was that was
It was. So
poured in
so-
place
so
3 years
the,
ago. For the-
I don't know that the poured in place 3 years ago. It may have been a different service. They may have increased the requirements for the surface itself. I'd have to go back and check. But these are county, so these are estimates that we get from Playground. I mean, we're looking, because I mentioned going out to bid, but I don't know if they use Sourcewell, which means that we would go out to get an estimate from somebody who's pre-approved. I have to double check with the county. they do the estimates for these projects. I can find out more detail about it. The reality is though that this, whatever was estimated, however it was estimated and what materials they were using in 20, well, gosh, we applied for this in like 2021. That may have increased, and it may be because when we did because when we do the proposal estimates versus the final estimates, the county does do some adjustments based on their insight into the program.
I just would like to understand how the county, or less, surface was part of it, it was not part of it, and if it wasn't part of it, I can, but I knew, but I think, I think it will be great for that neighborhood. I think it will be great for that. I just need to know, I need to understand a little bit more about the number, how the county is coming
I
up.
can get that information for sure. If the board's inclined, though, I just want to caveat that I can ask for the maximum amount. We're not committed to spending it if we decide for some reason that it doesn't make sense or we're not happy with elements. This can be scaled back, but it would be scaled back considerably from the original design. And that was the one thing we want to make sure that we can get the biggest bang for our buck, so to speak.
Who actually does the bidding, the county or here?
That will go out to bid. I don't know if this one has to go out to bid. I have to double check on this particular one, but usually it's the county that's negotiating the contracts.
It just doesn't seem like we have a say in where they get it and how they do it. And it's
they do.
mostly the county's grant to
So
us.
It's based on the federal. So this is a federal grant. This comes from. It's federally administered. The county's administrating it, but it's federal funding. Let me get some more details on
Yeah.
this because I can certainly ask those questions. But I'm sure between now and the next meeting, I can get those questions, and then we can put the resolutions on. By then, if you're happy with the satisfactory response, we'll go forward. If not, we'll
We won't.
scale back the project.
Or not do it. The thing that starts happening, and you and I spoke about it a bit earlier, not just about this project, is some things we control and we can say yay, nay, or compromise. Some things, when you get grants, you have very little say in who, what, where, and when. You can advise, you could complain, you could cajole, but you don't really get a lot of say, except for yes or no. I'll take the money or I won't, strings attached. So it's just important to know where this starts, where this ends. 3 years, the costs, I mean, I was just speaking to the hardware store, Austin. They're really struggling with understanding how the costs, COVID's been over for a long time now, and how the cost keeps skyrocketing on materials that have been around for a century. These are not new materials on the planet, and it just keeps growing and growing at 10 to 30% a year. So prices are just going up. And these grants don't account for that. And we see that over and over again. So we'll see who's controlling this, who's bidding this out, why this is happening. But in the end, if we don't have a say in it, except to say yes, no, or make it smaller, meet our budget needs. But I think the board generally agrees that we need to upgrade our playgrounds. Making it inclusive is the way to go. And by the way, if we don't do it now, in 2 or 3 years, I'm assuming it'll be double the price. And these things are supposed to last 10 to 20 years, or at least they have in the past. So we're doing this for like a long period of time.
Would this playground replace the one that's there, that's used by Park School? Do they use that playground? Part of their, recess?
Technically, they're not supposed to. do
Technically,
that.
no, they don't,
Right.
but
We
sometimes
know
they
that
do.
they do, and they've been told not to do that.
Oh,
But it would replace the one that is there currently.
Whatever is there now will be
And the
replaced.
school has written a letter of support when we originally
Yeah, we're
did
so
this,
happy because
yes.
they should be paying.
I
for
was
it.
going to say,
They should be paying. We had a year's worth of discussion, and the community that lives there did not want that usage by the school, because the school won't allow people to use the playground when they're using it, which defeats the idea of inclusivity for many people who are there with their 2 to 5-year-olds and
Yeah,
want to play with them.
technically, they're not allowed to do that.
Well,
So-
that's what,
So that's a
so-
different
So
issue.
that's a different
Which-
conversation for
but
another
just-
night.
and if it happens this year, fantastic, but not next year, that's something that Karen and I were talking about. Exactly.
Yes, it's a nice thing of being on the board a while. You actually remember these conversations and the public engagement that happened and the pushback from the people who live actually in that very neighborhood and how they feel about that. And, you know, it's tough because the school wants more space all the time. But the school budget, as we learned, is a very high percentage of the budgets. So this is a back and forth. At the end of the day, we have to figure out what's best for everyone and not bicker over, you know, issues, but figure out what's best for everybody. Okay.
New business, is that the end of the continuing business of the board? Okay. New business of the board. Changes to the 2024 fee schedule other than water and sewer fees. Resolved that the Village of Austin's 2024 fee schedule be revised to include the following fees effective November 5th, 2024. Item, annual military banner storage and rehanging fee, $50 per banner.
Always a surprise to see it. I thought that was already something we were doing, but I guess we didn't have it in, so now we're putting it in.
We need to change the fee schedule.
Okay. Does everybody understand what this is?
I totally understand, and I read Joyce's email, and it's almost like they're strong arming you. If you wanted to hold on to your banner and bring it home, and then bring it back, they're telling you, no, you can't do that. You have to pay the $50. So, if it comes back and it's in good shape, why can't you hang my banner? Why do I have to worry about somebody else doing it? So,
Okay, just to be clear, they isn't they's actually us. We're actually the ones instituting this.
I understand that. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying. I have an issue with it because how
Okay.
many banners were there?
60 something.
See, and they're
55?
going to increase it probably.
They think it's
Right.
going to go up to like 100.
Say they all go back. That's $3,200 that they're collecting just to
So-
store your banner.
So
Well, they were hung to begin with.
so
But they're taken
didn't pay a
down,
fee
then they
for
have
the
to be
hanging.
rehung.
So this is not, in terms of the time that takes staff, this is not the biggest project we do, but it's not an insignificant project. So it takes a considerable amount of time, plus we're going to be doing this with the town next year too. There's only one bucket truck. There's a limit, you know, and we have to get the stuff out pretty quickly. The challenges of working with people, to make sure they bring it on time and it's in condition. And then if they bring it and they, you know, I argue with somebody about whether it's in the right condition or not and have to track people down, is a real challenge. And it's something that we
shouldn't
talk
be our
about.
problem, though. That shouldn't be our problem. If you want your banner hung, you make it a point to get it there. If not, it doesn't go back up.
We discussed that. This was discussed initially. The fee, you know, again, the board determines the fee, but the challenge, you know, again, logistics can sometimes be a challenge and you're dealing with like, it sometimes, it can create, some just administrative challenges. And I agree with you if it doesn't get there, but somebody says, I was sick or I missed a day, it's just one day, you know, you fall into those things. It can be challenging. That said, because we want to help people and do the right thing and get the manners up. That said, also, you know, this doesn't come without a significant cost of public resources. It's done on overtime. It has to be done in a certain amount of time. So there is that cost too. So I would say that it's as much a hanging fee as it is a storage fee, as it is a being able to implement the program fee. Above and beyond the actual printing of the banners.
The cost of the banner, does any of that money go to the village or only to the company? Okay, so all the work involved, the company actually doesn't do any of it. It's all done on regular time or overtime, which is the same thing. One is just more expensive than the other because if you're in a bucket truck with 3 guys doing this, you're not doing other things. So that's one of the issues here. because the company doesn't hang them up, the municipality does, and the municipality doesn't get a penny from this company. It's a private company. It's a good company. We've, I think, had good luck with them, and the banners look nice. I've seen them in other municipalities. And is it only one time? So they come down because they do get weather beaten. They come down. They go back up again next year. Do they go back a third year and a fourth year and a fifth year? Or what's happening with that?
They do have a lifespan, but the idea of storing them, though, it's about three years before they kind of wear out or get faded.
I think that's another thing you have to make clear to people. Because, one person's opinion of it's worn down and another person's opinion of it's worn down. Because I see flags all over this country and some of them are just torn into shreds and others look terrific. You're not supposed to put them up on the pole if they're torn or shredded, but people do, and it starts looking bad. Okay, so we can discuss the fee, yes or no. We can say it's too much, we can say it's too little. Those are usually the options whenever we discuss fees. This is the recommendation by the staff. Sue, question?
No?
No.
I have a motion?
Yeah,
Yes.
they
So
want to
moved.
vote.
A second.
Okay, so now we can continue with comments or questions on this.
I mean, I have to decide if I want my father's banner, if I want to bring it home and hang it in my house for the winter. And then, or pay the $50 and it gets, I imagine, rolled up in a tube or something and stored.
I'm sorry, Dana, but that's not what this is. It's literally, you don't have a choice. You have to,
No, I know.
Yeah.
If I take it home, I can't bring it back to be rehung, right?
correct.
Unless I buy a new one with a different photo or something, which is, but, so that, I don't know, I mean, I would take good care of it and bring it back, but, yeah, I'm a little torn about it. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, my general feeling about it is all of this is experimental, right? We're trying out what's going to work. And this is policy. All policies are blunt instruments. So there's not going to be one size fits all for what we're doing here. What we're trying to do, as I understand it, is say by having, if you want to keep the banner that you currently have, then this particular fee will balance the administrative costs, both and staff and other costs, with the ease of from the user end. You pay the $50, you're done. With the trade-off, then, if you're going to do something that's more bespoke or layered, saying you can do this, or you can take it home, but then it has to go. We have to like inspect it to make sure that you took good care of it, and so that when that's adding layers of administrative consideration. That do we want to do that? I don't know. And so my general take is I'm curious to see how it shakes out, right? I would be comfortable with trying this for this year and seeing how does it work. Of the people that want to, that saw now what it looks like and are saying, hey, I want to get in for year 2. How do I do that? They're able to do it, and we're able to then pivot. Because if next year what we hear is this is totally not working, the $50 is cost prohibitive. For whatever reason, it's not going to work. I want to be able to keep it and bring it back and whatever. Then we can have that conversation. But the way that I'm currently sitting, I would be comfortable with saying, if you want to keep the banner, you keep the banner. But then if you want to bring it back up, then you get in line with everyone else. The next year, you just resubmit a new thing, a new banner, and then you keep the one you have, and then you can
And
have
you have
that
to
one.
pay for a new one?
Correct. Then
That's
you pay.
$250.
Correct. But
You
then,
might as well store it for 50.
well, then you're not storing it. Then you're keeping it. Yeah.
Right.
Then you're storing it. Then correct. If what you want to do is keep the banner, and then have one that's going to be kind of permanently, if you will, up there, then essentially, yeah, then you would have two of them. One that you have up the first time and then you keep, and the other one that you keep paying the $50 until it's no longer able to be displayed. That's my sense, but I don't know how many people fall into these categories. These banners are large. I don't know where folks are looking to display these banners in their homes or so forth. So I don't know how much of an audience there is for taking it, keeping it, storing it, and then bringing it back. That's where I am.
There, there also, if the issue is the fee itself, like there's no, that's a fee we recommended. If it seemed less onerous to cut the fee, I do think my going through this that it's going to be a little essentially like herding cats to try to get everything. And then we have to set up a time for people to drop them off and we have to be there and we have to, and then they have to be sorted a certain way. It will add another layer of work to an already, and I don't have staff people who are around to do that. The people who are hanging these are not going to be the people doing that. That said, anything is possible. The other option is if the concern is that it's $50, charge, we can adjust the fee to maybe a more reason, a lower amount. I think, given the work involved, it's actually a pretty good deal. It's a tremendous amount of work, but if that feels like onerous, then it might, I think ultimately it'll be less work on the village to have a fee that's more, makes it for it so we can keep this better organized. So that's something else the board can.
Yeah, so when programs are popular and people are paying, it's because they like the program and the pricing is not a barrier for what the product is. I mean, I personally feel, I'm representing people, but I, unlike Dana and unlike Bob, don't actually have a banner up, but just from looking at the numbers, we did not expect 60. We got the original, what we thought, the vendor said 30 to 35. Then, it's not, it was days of work for a whole bunch of people to get this done. And the historian doesn't get paid, although she answered tons of emails on her own time. She doesn't get paid for that. That's Cornish for us, but it's a lot of work. A lot of work with Jamie and stuff like that. To me, it's like, it's $300 for the banner. I would have preferred to have a vendor who actually did the work of hanging all this stuff. They don't want to do that. It's a lot of work and it's expensive because these trucks, you have to have this kind of trucks to be able to go to municipalities. I've not seen this many banners in villages or towns as I've driven through New York. Cities, some of them have a few more. We have a lot. So people seem to really like this. So to me, it's $300 a banner. $50 is used for storage. I don't know if 50 is the right amount. I don't know if 35 is the right amount. It's a lot of, I don't even know where you're storing all this stuff. We have such a lack of storage capacity. I don't even know where are you storing all these things? No, seriously, we keep
The
talking
archive
about how
room?
we don't have any room anywhere.
We'll be storing it somewhere at DPW.
And they have to be kept in the order of the military activity, and they can only be done in certain places. So somebody has to actually monitor all that. Anyway, I don't know what the right number is. I know for me, there has to be a number. I don't know if this is right. I can only go with recommended. This is not how we make money. If you look at the budget and chart, this ain't it. Anyway, Manny, Bob, I think,
Can I
said
just
what he
say one thing?
feels.
I don't know if it's helpful to say that we did push this out this week and a third of the people that have purchased banners have already signed up to have them held for the winter.
But they don't see that as a barrier because
They're
I
not
know the
seeing it as a barrier.
historian explained to people
Yeah.
what it is. And I think we're going to get 100. I think it's going to go up from 60 something to 100. Who knows if it's even more?
I think it's going to
Which
be closer
is
to
a ton
120.
of work to organize. Anyway, Bob, do you have more to say? Manny, do you have something to add or recommendations of different?
I remember Steve Paul was part of this conversation a while back about the installation and everything else. And I guess Not a question, but a comment. This was going to be an issue. Storage was going to be an issue. Program it within itself. Is that any better, Jesse? Or yell?
We
Yes.
did talk about this, and we did at the time set the fee, and I think it was just done more informally, and I don't disagree that we should have addressed this before now, but I think it partly is because there's a tremendous amount of volunteer effort going for this, and we got a lot of things going on. So while I don't disagree, this was not a number that we pulled out of the air. It was a number that we had been discussing all along with this, with some level of board engagement on this. That said, I think that it's a little unusual that we're in this little bit of a time crunch here, and we really do try very
And I
hard not
agree.
to do
I
that.
think I would
Um,
like to, yeah, I'm a little bit way where I was like, keep it, we don't keep it, and like storage to have the banners in there. But I will treat it myself as the same way I always do the beautification on the downtown and parts of the Apple Boston and have all the flowers. Someone goes there, waters the flowers, does all this stuff. That's to beautify our village. That to me, this program, we don't charge them. We put them in front of everybody. That's to display for the whole village. So I will treat this as part of that. It won't be a fee at all. Get a one-time fee. They have to be replaced. Who pay for it will replace it. So
Really,
I'm
it's
sort of
really up
not
to
in
the
the fee
board.
portion. So
Yeah, I'm okay with the fee because everyone that drives by enjoys the flowers. I don't have a banner. And I don't think not everybody has a vet and not everybody wants these things. The people that want their family members to have banners from a private company. Let me remind you that there were a number of groups that tried to get this program off the ground 3 times in 10 years, never were able to do it. One of the reasons is all of the logistics involved, and the staff here stepped up. I personally think there's a fee. It's not for everybody. It is for very specific people, for their family members or somebody they want to honor. It doesn't even have to be a family member. It could be anybody they want to honor, organization. It's a private company. And as I said, the village doesn't make any money. It isn't the same as flowers. It's not the same as trees. It's not the same as parks. That's available to everybody. I don't think the banners are a beautification issue. I think they're a memorializing issue that is very specific. So the question is, do you believe in a fee or not? And once you say yes to the fee, if you don't believe in a fee, it doesn't matter what the number is, right? Once you believe there should be a fee, and by the way, this was supposed to be a pilot. We were told 35 by the vendor. This is the thing about pilots. You see and you learn. And I'm going to be honest with you. If in 3 years we want to do this program and this historian isn't around and the next one doesn't want to do it, we're going to have to pay someone. So pilots are pilots. They're designed to get things going. You live and you learn and you see what's going on and you say, oh, wow, this is really something the community really, really wants. But now there's an issue. And if we have over 100, it's going to take us more than a day. It's going to take us days to put these things up. And if it rains in the middle or a windy day, they can't put them up. It'll take us 2 weeks to put them up. But that's the part of trying something new is I don't know what we could have predicted. I don't know that we knew it was going to be how many it was going to be. I didn't know that it was going to be that popular. We didn't know that, there was a logistics involved because there's so many. If there were 10, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Or we might have said, hey, it's a pilot. It didn't work. Only 10 people were interested. We're done with this. So I'm okay with a fee because this is a very specific program. I think the fact that the staff got this off the ground when prior attempts of people wanting to do it wasn't able to get that done. I think it says something about their ability to get things done. The question of whether 50 is right or 30 or 9, I don't know. I don't know what the number is. I have no clue. I can only go with what's being recommended. I don't know where you guys want to go with this. I think we're in the middle of a vote on this recommendation. I think if you don't want a fee, the vote would be no. If you want a different price, I think that needs to be stated too. If you lower because there's so many banners, maybe it should be lower. I don't know whatever the logic is. I do think that we need to address this because the dates, we're going to Veterans Day. Make a decision here. I mean, this is a problem of a successful program. And a historian who is willing, which is not a job of a historian to do this, by the way. That is not her role and responsibility to put this on. I don't know if she will. They're each different, they each do different things. That's their prerogative as village historians. So, are we voting? Are we in the middle of vote? I lost track.
You are in the middle.
We're in the middle of a vote on
Yes.
this recommendation. Okay. Sue?
Okay, so we have it, I forgot what to say. All in favor?
Abstain.
No.
Oh, wait a minute.
There's a no?
Let's do all in favor.
Okay.
Who is in favor?
Aye.
Dana, she's,
Yeah, no, I want a lower fee
so you're voting no.
on the
Okay.
50,
Well, you're voting no because the recommendation is,
right?
so you're voting no. You're voting yes. Omar?
Correct.
I am voting yes. You're voting,
I'm still abstaining.
you're abstaining, and you're voting no.
No.
So we don't have.
Okay,
So we didn't pass because there's 2 board members that voted yes, correct?
right.
What's the matter?
Right, is this a conflict of interest? Okay, so I should
I
abstain.
think it's a conflict of interest. So still doesn't pass.
So, and
Okay.
I'm
Oh,
sorry, can I
Richard,
ask a question?
turn your.
So Stuart,
Thank you.
Stuart, can I ask you a question in technicality? Let's say we want to go back and revisit this resolution next work session for argument's sake. I know,
Yeah.
I'm just asking as a general question. So would that mean that 2 of the board members won't be able to have part of that?
Right.
They should not participate because in this case, they actually have a direct financial interest. They are in fact purchasers. They actually deal with
Okay.
those. And I want to thank the manager for pointing that out. I was thinking about something else at the time. But the answer is they would not be, they actually should technically remove themselves from the dais when that's going on.
I understand that. Okay.
All right.
I'm stretching. This is going to be a problem. Because when we vote on this topic in the future and people on the board buy banners, it's a real possibility that on this issue, we won't get 3 people.
So I
That's why you
think,
want to set a fee now.
I think that's exactly right. So I think, Jamie, refresh my memory. I know that some communities, like every community does this differently.
Yeah.
So, and some communities work different deals with the vendors. I know that there are some communities that have fees, the storage fee is considerably lower, and then some are, the banners are different sizes.
I'm sorry, the
So-
banners are smaller, but I want to keep in mind that it isn't just taking it down and storing it. They're going to be cleaning them. They're going to be storing them. They're going to be rolled up. There is a special hold them that saves the integrity of the banner, that makes it last possibly
Longer.
3 to 5 years. So if someone were to take it home, then it may not last as long. And then they're not going to be getting the same opportunity. So the $50 pays for that. Also, you, with the replay of the banners, when they were taking them down, there's brackets that have been up now for 6 months that are not going to be in good shape. We'll be purchasing new brackets for some of these. There's going to be new flags that go up. Each one, if you notice, has a flag. There is a cost associated with it.
Right.
Outside of just storage, even if we were to give them to people to take home with them, to just so that they're all treated exactly the same and they're all cleaned and they're all stored in a certain.
Yeah, it really is a benefit for so many reasons. So I because,
But like, so.
Okay, so
Bills are a different size. and
we get it.
Eastchester does it.
Let me
There's-
just suggest this, that if the cost is the problem, I will actually push for the fact that we don't clean them and we don't put brackets and we don't do all of that. Let people take them and they're just not going to be in great shape. What we're not doing is considering all of the issues that this has brought on. So there
yeah.
are many ways to look at this, right?
So I would look at it that the simplest way to do this, I would rather, to be honest, from a management perspective, you're going to have people who are folding them. When you fold them, they're going to get wrinkles, they're going to get hung up. If we want to make this our obligation to really treating these in the best way possible and preserving them, which may be difficult for somebody to do at home, maybe not, but we have a lot of, I think it behooves us to set a potentially, I know we talked about this, I would prefer from a management standpoint to be able to execute this. It will save us more money in the long run if we're managing that and we keep them clean and we keep them looking pristine. And, you know, we charge a minimal charge or a lesser charge, because I think the collecting them, trying to sort them, having them look different because people are taking care of them in different ways is going to actually not work as well.
Right, but other communities don't do multi-year. In other
Yes,
communities.
they do.
I'm sorry?
They do.
All of them do it?
Most
Well,
of
that-
them do.
okay.
And then they store them and they
Okay.
charge to store them. And then
All
they
right.
redisplay them.
So,
So I want to go through this. So we don't have a vote, right? We have a no vote if two people recused, and Manny Casada is saying no, I think. Did you say no or abstain? Well, but it doesn't matter. Abstain or no is the same thing here.
So I think maybe, I guess timing wise, it doesn't work for us to have a dialogue and for me to understand Jamie explain. It is a little bit more labor wise that I was thinking about actually
In the
happens.
cleaning
And
and
the cleaning and all
the
the stuff.
brackets and all
So
that.
if anything, either for me to understand exactly what the process is, in, for me will be an option for the people who have a banner on behalf of their members is to either take them home and bring them back. If they're not in the conditions that should be displayed, then they don't get displayed.
Yeah, so that's going to be,
know, so-
I'm just going to tell you,
Yeah.
we're going to be making a judgment call that's going to be very hard to do. I would rather, to be perfectly honest, why don't we say, I'm just anticipating what I know are going to be the challenges on our end. The range, I think, of storing the banners range from $10 to $50. Maybe we were on the higher side. It would make more sense from a ability to do this program and do it the justice that needs to be done is to take them for a lower fee and just store them and make sure they're all done consistently. It will make this so much easier for our staff on the back end. Having half of them home, half of them here is, I'm going to tell you.
So Manny,
be
you're the no
problematic.
on this. So what would be the right price if there's a price?
So let me throw one item
Sure.
on this one. So, and we're talking about 10 feet, $10, and I believe that's what Mount Pleasant does. I could check that
Yep.
tomorrow. But what happens if this year there's no fees? Next year is a fee. That could be determined by the board. I'll be more than happy with $10 for banner at that point. But this year, because we are trying to encourage and we are thanking them for what a lot of people, 60 people from the community display their family members in here. So I'll be okay with having no fee this year and having a $10 fee.
Manny,
That
we're
would
not
make me-
actually trying to encourage people. This is a program that came to us. We have more people than we anticipated. It's huge. The challenge is that so many people want it. It's a lovely program, but so many people want it that now it's
You guys can put a caveat. It's like, how many is it? 100 the number? Is it 50 the next time or the
Well, why not just
60?
do $10 now? People have already agreed to 50. Half the people already agreed to 50. Why not just do 10 now when so many communities are doing it at 10? I mean, that's
Or we
so
can
much
just do it
less.
For free
No one
this
is-
No,
year.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. 20 was the lower.
20 is the lowest number, so why don't we just do what everybody else does, which is $20?
But that isn't everybody else. That's just the ones with the smaller.
Oh, that's a smaller
Smaller-
banner, which
smaller-
takes
smaller
less
banner.
work, et cetera.
Yeah.
Why push this on? If you set the fee now, then you're done. Why would you do it now and then push it on to another board again next year?
The board can change fees at any time, correct? So again, and we have done programs just like the driveway, get a permit where we have not set a fee on it, and there's an application portion. A lot of paperwork on the building department as well. So again, my suggestion, trying to move forward with a resolution that we modify right now will be no fee this year and $10 for next year. That will be my compromise to change my staying board to a year.
Well, what are you saying yes to?
Saying yes to not a fee that will start next year of $10 and not fee this year.
You're saying no to this, so you're voting no, right?
No, what I'm saying is if we want this to move forward, we want this resolution to move forward in some sort of level, instead of $50 this year, it will be $10 next year and free this year. That's what I'm saying. So next year will be at $10. You guys can change it if you want, but I'll be okay with the $10 fee with a no fee for this year, where we're talking about November and December. To storage that for next year.
Why no fee this year?
This schedule starts on November 5th, effective November 5th, 2024. My concern was if there was all these issues, we should have been addressing these issues when we started the program itself, which was what, 6-7 months ago when we started this. So for me, it's like they're trying to, and I'm not saying it's not a problem, but that we should have been addressing this concern, this very concern about a fee and a storage and everything else. That again, have a very great recollection that we talked about his storage and we talked about putting him up and we talked about putting him, removing him and putting him back with Paul when he was in one of those meetings. So if that wasn't addressing then, now we have to address it, kind of backpedal a little bit in what we have to do. So that's why I'm saying no fee for this year and fee for next year.
Okay, we're not going to get a vote here of 3, so because it's a no vote, it doesn't really, the rest of it doesn't matter. It's a no on the recommendation. It also means that you will have to assess whether you want to clean and fold and do all of that work or do less work. That's up to the board. That's not a fee discussion
Yeah.
because that is why everybody else charges. So, and you'll have to, I'm not even sure people know that you were doing that, ironing banners and all this sort of stuff.
We're not,
It's a
we're,
different
they're
issue.
just being wiped down and rolled. There's not an extravagant thing going on.
Oh, but there's
The-
a holder for it.
I understand. The holder came with the banner originally, correct? So that's another additional cost. So there's details here that I do not want to get into. What we're going to have to do by default is right now, like, we have to roll this out now, so I can't,
Right.
we really are at a time limit. So we're going to by default have to have no fee for this year for the storage, and then we'll have to address it in advance of.
When are we doing fees again? And we could do it anytime, but
You
when are
do
we
it
doing
any
the
time,
fees?
but you do adopt the fee schedule with
But
the budget.
The problem is this is a timed
Yeah.
program, so we're
I
collecting the
understand.
banners now.
I
The
got it.
banners come down after Veterans
We're not
Day.
getting a 3-person vote here. So we're
Right,
done with
understood.
that.
So, no,
Now is the
can I
next-
make one statement?
Sure.
Because I respectfully disagree with Stuart telling me that I should recuse. This
So you're
banner.
not recusing?
No. Okay, if you want to say that. This banner's paid for. The amount of storage fee, it's the principle of what they're doing. It's the principle of the project. And I get it, it takes time. Well, it took time to put them up. We didn't hear about it then, but they went up. Now we're hearing about, well, it's going to take time to take them down. That's
So-
fine. No, let me finish, Karen.
No, but I just.
Karen, let me finish.
Okay.
All right. Jamie says brackets. Weren't these brackets guaranteed? There's a lot of, it's the principle of it. All right. My banner's paid for. So I don't believe that's a discussion that I'd have to recuse myself for that.
Because you're deciding on fees that are an extra charge.
I
And you
understand that.
benefit
I
from
don't care
that
if it's
because
$100.
your banner.
It's the principle.
I
It's not the
understand, but
fee.
the fee itself is an extra charge that is money that stays in your pocket versus you paying. Therefore, he's not necessarily wrong. It's only $50 or $25, but it's money that you and Dana are voting on that you keep
I
in your
understand that.
pocket because you're not paying it. So you
That-
do have
whether
an
I have
interest.
no problem paying it. It's the principle of what they're doing. All right.
But
This
re-
is
but the
this is
recusal
the cart is
conversation-
going after the horse on this project.
That's what Manny's saying.
All right.
But
And
your
should have been discussed a long time ago.
But you're discussing the recusal part, Stuart is not wrong. Whether it's $50 or $5,000, money stays in your pocket and Dana's pocket when you vote not to have the fee.
I understand that. You
So
don't need to
is-
explain that to me. I understand how it works. All right. I don't need to
Right, so you
explain
should
to me.
recuse yourself, right?
No, I wanted to make a statement. That's why I unrecused, and now I will recuse.
Yeah. Sort of defies the purpose of recusals. Regardless of all of this.
Anytime you want. True, Stuart? If I decide to unrecuse, because I've done it before.
Yes, you and I have had this discussion before. That is correct.
So,
It defeats the purpose of recusal, and Dana has the same issue. It means that you're supposed to be out of the whole conversation. Regardless of that, we're not going to have 3 votes on this, okay? However it got there, we're not getting 3 vote. Is there another comment on the side over here on this? No? Oh, okay, so Karen, it's going to be a no vote on this.
Okay.
It'll have to be another vote. You can bring up this fee discussion at another time, either when the fees are adopted or at another time in January or February of next year. And we'll see what the board wants to do
Okay.
then. And the cost of this program, if the cost is, in the staff's opinion, prohibitive, you will have to bring it in front of the board and say, yeah, we miscalculated and frankly, we can't manage this, or it's cost whatever number of thousands, and the board will have to now use it as part of its own, as part of a budget item.
So to that end, just so I understand, we'll waive essentially waive the fee for the introductory, and then we can reassess and we'll
Right.
figure out what.
And you'll
needs
have to
be in
figure out what the cost is. It either becomes a budget item
think-
or it's voted as a fee.
I think that works fine.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
Could be discussed next week, literally. The
Um,
next fee for the
I
following
think
year.
we're already like
25.
sort of like this, we have to have time.
Then you're
to
rolling it
collect
out
this
after
now,
the
to get
fact.
the banners down in the time. We're just,
That's even
in
worse.
fairness, I think it, and we accept the fact that, this, even though it was discussed, the issue as it was discussed, it wasn't ratified in this fee schedule. That was an oversight. So, we will make sure that we do it.
Fine,
I
no,
mean,
we
so
can't really
it
do it-
doesn't constitute a tremendous, loss.
It's fine, but you can't do, we'll have to figure out the right timing so that, like, once we roll out to X number of people, we can't do to some to others and then undo, so we'll have to figure out on the next round. Okay, next. That's a no vote then on your, drone permit.
Thank you, folks. This will be brief. The legislation approved tonight by the board notes that for drones to be used on village property, meaning take off land, or drones to be used for commercial purposes, there would be a permit. Generally, most of the time that happens will be in association with filming. We already have a filming permit. My suggestion would be essentially to fold this into the filming permit, which is already a $1,400 fee. And if it's basically multiple locations in the village, it's multiple fees. If someone was just wanted to use a drone, just to use it for not, but let's say wanted to come off of the village property, or for that matter, wants to use it for a commercial purpose, having nothing to do with filming at all, my suggestion, and I'm happy to come back to the board with this at a later time, would be nothing more than $75 just to do that. They all will be required still to have insurance. They will be required to meet all those requirements, have a hold harmless agreement and everything like that. But again, most of these, when I've looked at them, relate to filming. And as I said, we already have a filming fee. So, and it's not unusual where we fold fees in. Plumbing is an example. If you already have that in terms of getting the building permit, here, you wouldn't need the same thing. And frankly, with the filming, we already require insurance. So a lot of this would be overlap. But again, I only brought it up to the board because there is a permit section within the drone article that was passed tonight. And in the event that someone comes in where it's not for a commercial purpose, but is, let's say, being done from village property, or is a commercial purpose but not related to filming, we would need to come up with some fee. I'm looking at in terms of what some other municipalities charge for that, because there are other municipalities that have it. But that's a matter of having to go through all the different fee schedules, and I have to make some calls. So I did just want the board to know that. But again, I believe that the vast majority, if they come within this requiring a permit, would likely be for filming. And as I said, we already charge $1,400 for filming anyway. We do have an insurance requirement. We do have a hold harmless requirement. So I think we can fold that in, but I'll be happy to come back to the board, at another session to flesh this out some more.
What
Can I-
happens with the, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm just imagining Christmas and all these kids getting drones. for Christmas that are maybe smaller than a commercial drone, but they're still, they just want to go in the backyard and send them up in the air, you know what I mean?
Well, if they're going up and it's just their home,
Yeah,
That's
there's
not gonna
nothing,
be
it's,
good.
it's okay.
It's
As
okay.
long as they're staying below you know, you can't go above
But what if they
400
go to
feet
their
or anything like
neighbors?
that.
They go around in their neighborhood.
If the neighbor has no problem with it, it's okay. But if the neighbor does not want them to do that, they can't do it. Because it's basically a matter of privacy.
what if they're not filming? What if they're just flying them? And they don't all necessarily film.
Well, but if you're using the drone, obviously you're seeing something. You know, generally you're not just flying it for the purpose of flying it. Then you might as well get a model rocket and do that. But if you're actually putting the drone up, you are going to be seeing something on a screen. So if you're going to, even if you're not filming, if you're going to do that, if you're going over someone else's home, there is a privacy concern. So unless that person's home you're going over says it's okay for you to do that, you should not be doing that.
How do we catch any of these?
Well, the main way you're going to do it is primarily if they are basically, if you observe if you're able to see where the drone is taking off from, if it's coming off anywhere within village property, as I said, that's really where the permit issue comes in, because it's really going to be more a permit issue. If a realtor wants to simply go up and just basically photograph the house from above, no harm, no foul. There's generally no need for a permit for something like that.
So a lot of this is going to be in the parks. That's where we can catch people,
Mhm.
things like that.
Right.
Waterfront maybe, or.
Any property that we own, that we lease, if it would be the aqueduct trail, same kind of thing like that. So those would be the primary areas where, you know, we would be able to potentially.
And if it's a private citizen whose house and they see neighbor from across the way, they don't even know him, they can call the police and say, you know, this person is hovering over my home and I want you to
Yes,
do what exactly to them? I'm not quite sure what they would do to them.
well, they can be
Understand.
issued an appearance ticket.
Okay. Oh, I like that. Saw that from the corner of my eye. I don't know if Jesse got that on camera. Okay,
Thank you.
so what are we passing? here?
Nothing. I'm just
Okay.
bringing it to the board's attention. As I said, most of the time, if it occurs with regard to most of these commercial enterprises, which is where most of these permits will occur, are related to filming. We already have a filming
Okay.
fee, so I didn't want to basically impose a second fee because
All right.
the requirements are the same.
Okay, I mean, it's just that today it's not really filming, it's, you know, an influencer, it's social media, whatever, so.
That's all
but we'll
commercial,
see.
but that's all commercial purposes.
I
And
guess.
essentially, they're filming.
All righty. What's next?
Resolution declaring certain village-owned, oh, sorry, apologize.
Okay.
Getting crazy now. Resolution declaring certain village-owned vehicle as surplus. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby declares the following vehicle as surplus equipment and authorizes their disposal in accordance with the New York State law by sale or otherwise as is pursuant with the village's agreement with Auctions International, Inc., a 2006 New Holland model number B95TC.
What is this thing?
It's a backhoe.
The backhoe. Was this in our plan to get rid of this?
All I can
No.
say is that I got
Yeah.
information from John Fiore that it's basically not repairable.
Well,
So
2006, that's,
Right, but we have a new one.
I believe
Yeah.
that's correct.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
any comments or questions? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have
That
an
it?
adjournment?
No,
and do
no,
we- Oh,
Don't,
I don't
ma-
think that's
oh,
it.
oh.
there's one more resolution. You don't have it.
Yeah.
And I
It
have,
came in our emails.
yes, and I will read it because I forgot to bring my hard copy.
We don't have to do it tonight if anybody objects to it. It's just something that I got that I thought would be an easy
Okay.
thing, but let's see if we can pass it. If not, we'll wait on it.
Resolution in support of continued and increased state aid for local governments. Whereas until 2024, cities, villages, and towns had not received an increase in unrestricted state aid AIM funding in 15 years, significantly impacting their ability to provide essential services to their residents. And whereas after a prolonged period without financial support, local governments finally received an increase of $50 million in unrestricted state aid, and whereas local officials expressed their gratitude for the $50 million increase in unrestricted state aid, recognizing it as a positive step towards addressing longstanding funding challenges, and whereas the state has referred to this new aid as temporary municipal assistance, suggesting that such increase may not continue, jeopardizing the sustainability of crucial municipal programs and services. And whereas the property tax cap further limits the ability of local governments to properly fund the programs and services their residents need, and whereas increased and ongoing state aid for local governments is vital for maintaining infrastructure, public safety, housing, and other municipal services, and whereas the challenges of inflation and increasing the cost of labor and supplies and the end of extraordinary federal aid only accentuate the need for consistent and predictable funding to effectively plan for the future and meet the growing needs of their residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining calls upon the governor and the state legislature to commit to continuing the additional $50 million in unrestricted state aid in the 2025-2026 state budget and beyond, and be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining urges state officials to recognize the need for a long-term plan that ensures consistent and predictable increases in financial support for local governments that keep pace with inflation, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Governor Kathy Hochul, Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins, Assembly Speaker Carl Hasty, Senator Peter Harcum, Assembly Member Dana Levenberg, and the New York Conference of Mayors. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any questions or comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, Stuart.
No problem.
Now, could I have a motion to adjourn into executive session
So moved.
for the matters of collective bargaining and personnel?
So moved again.
Second.
Great. Sue?
All in favor? Sorry. I
Aye.
apologize.
Aye. Thank you very much. It's 10:05. On Wednesday, we're going to go into executive session. The meeting's adjourned.
Sue, I'll send that to you in the morning.